This is not a story meant to scare you. It's a confession that was never meant to be heard. What you're about to listen to is real, or at least, it was real to the person who lived it. Welcome to True Horror Confessions. If you're brave enough to keep listening, subscribe now. Because once these stories begin, they don't let you go. I'm writing this from a motel room in nowhere, Montana, and I need to get this down before I forget any details. Before I convince myself it didn't happen. My hands are still shaking, and I've checked the locks on the door about 15 times in the last hour. I don't think I'm safe here, but I don't know where else to go. 3 days ago, I was driving from Seattle to Minneapolis. It's a trip I've done a dozen times. I'm a freelance photographer, and I drive cross-country a lot for work. Usually I fly, but this time I had equipment that was cheaper to drive than to ship, so I loaded up my Civic and hit the road. The first 2 days were fine, boring, but fine. Long stretches of highway, gas stations, fast food, cheap motels, normal road trip stuff. But on the third day, somewhere in eastern Montana on Highway 200, things started to go wrong. It was around 9 p.m. and I was trying to make it to the next town before stopping for the night. The sun had set about an hour earlier, and the highway was completely empty. No other cars, no lights, except my headlights. Just endless darkness on both sides of the road. The kind of darkness you only get in the middle of nowhere, where there's no light pollution for 100 miles in any direction. I'd been driving for maybe 20 minutes without seeing another car when I noticed something in my rearview mirror. Headlights, way back behind me, but gaining fast, really fast. I was doing about 70, and whatever was behind me had to be doing at least 90 or 100. As it got closer, I could see it was a semi-truck. Big rig, 18-wheeler, the kind you see all the time on highways. It pulled up behind me, maybe 50 feet back, and just stayed there, matching my speed exactly, keeping that same distance. I thought maybe the driver wanted to pass, but was waiting for a passing lane or something. So I sped up a little, trying to make it easier for him to go around. He sped up too, maintaining that exact same distance. I slowed down. He slowed down. After about 5 minutes of this, I was starting to get annoyed and a little creeped out. Why was this guy following me so closely? I looked for a place to pull over and let him pass, but there was nothing, just empty highway and darkness. That's when I noticed something in my side mirror. The truck's headlights were wrong. Normal headlights, even on high beam, have a specific quality to them, but these lights looked off. Too bright, almost. And they had this weird flickering quality, like they were pulsing slightly. I tried to get a better look at the truck in my rearview mirror, but I couldn't make out any details, just the lights and a dark shape behind them. No license plate visible, no company logo, nothing. Then my radio started acting up. I'd been listening to a playlist on my phone through Bluetooth, but suddenly it cut out and was replaced by static. Loud, harsh static that made me jump. I went to turn it off, but before I could, I heard something in the static. A voice. No, multiple voices, talking over each other, too distorted to make out what they were saying. I turned the radio off. The voices stopped. The truck was still behind me, those weird lights still maintaining the same distance. I decided to just pull over, let the guy pass, and deal with whatever this was. I put on my turn signal and started to slow down, moving toward the shoulder. The truck slowed down too, but it didn't go around me. It just stayed behind me as I pulled onto the shoulder and stopped. I sat there with my engine running, waiting for the truck to pass. It didn't. It just sat there behind me, maybe 30 feet back now, engine rumbling, those strange lights pointed right at my car. After about a minute of this standoff, I decided to get out and talk to the driver. Maybe something was wrong with my car and he was trying to warn me, or maybe he needed help. I don't know what I was thinking, honestly. It was stupid. I opened my door and stepped out onto the shoulder. The cold night air hit me immediately. It had to be in the 40s, and I was just wearing a t-shirt. I walked toward the back of my car, holding up my hand to shield my eyes from the truck's headlights. "Hey," I called out. "Is everything okay? Do you need something?" No response. The truck just sat there, idling. I walked a little closer, close enough that I should have been able to see into the cab, but I couldn't see anything. The windshield was dark, completely dark, like it was tinted or covered. I couldn't even see the shape of a driver. "Hello?" I called again, louder this time. That's when the truck's horn started blaring. Not a quick tap, but a long, sustained blast that echoed across the empty highway. It was so loud it made my ears ring. I stumbled backward, startled, and the horn kept going. 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 15 seconds, and then it stopped. And in the sudden silence, I heard something else. Scratching. A wet, dragging sound, like something being pulled across pavement. It was coming from underneath the truck. I don't know why I didn't just get back in my car and drive away right then. Some part of my brain was still trying to rationalize what was happening, still trying to convince myself there was a normal explanation. Maybe something was caught under the truck. Maybe an animal had been hit and was trapped underneath. I took my phone out and turned on the flashlight, pointing it at the underside of the truck. The light beam caught something moving, something pale and wrong. At first I thought it was fabric, like a tarp or a sheet. But then I saw the fingers. There was a person under the truck, or what had been a person. They were crawling, or being dragged, their body twisted at angles that weren't possible. Their face, God, their face was turned up toward me, mouth open in a silent scream, eyes wide and glassy. But they were moving, still moving, even though they shouldn't have been able to move, not with their body bent like that. I ran. I didn't think, didn't process what I'd seen, just turned and ran back to my car. I got in, slammed the door, locked it, threw the car in drive and floored it. Gravel sprayed as my tires spun, and then I was back on the highway, accelerating as fast as my Civic would go. I looked in my rearview mirror. The truck was following me again. I was doing 85, 90, 95. The truck kept pace effortlessly, those weird lights always the same distance behind me. My phone was sitting in the cup holder, and I grabbed it with one hand, trying to dial 911 while keeping my other hand on the wheel. No signal. I was in the middle of nowhere, Montana, and of course there was no signal. I drove for what felt like hours, but was probably only 10 or 15 minutes, pushing my car as fast as it would go, desperately looking for any sign of civilization. A town, a gas station, another car, anything. But there was nothing. Just darkness, an empty highway, and the truck behind me. And then I saw it. Up ahead, maybe a quarter mile, there was a rest stop. One of those small ones with just a parking lot and bathrooms. But it had lights, actual electric lights, which meant there might be people, might be help. I took the exit way too fast, my tires squealing, and pulled into the parking lot. There were 2 other cars there, a minivan and an old pickup truck. I'd never been so happy to see other vehicles in my life. I parked right next to the minivan, killed my engine, and looked back at the highway. The truck had stopped at the exit. It was just sitting there, at the top of the ramp, not pulling in, just waiting. I got out of my car and ran toward the bathroom building. There was a light on inside, and I could see someone moving around. A woman, probably in her 50s, washing her hands at the sink. When I burst through the door, she jumped and looked at me with alarm. "Are you okay?" she asked. "You look, there's a truck," I said, out of breath. "A semi. It's been following me. There's something wrong with it. Have you seen it?" She frowned. "A truck? No, I haven't seen any trucks. Just pulled in about 10 minutes ago. It's been quiet." "It's right there," I said, pointing toward the exit. "At the top of the ramp. You can see it from..." I walked to the door and looked out. The exit ramp was empty. The truck was gone. The woman came up behind me and looked where I was pointing. "I don't see anything, honey. Are you sure you're all right? Do you need me to call someone?" I didn't answer. I just stared at the empty ramp, trying to process what I was seeing, or not seeing. The truck had been there. I'd seen it. Where could it have gone? I thanked the woman and told her I was fine, just tired from driving. She looked concerned but didn't push it. After she left, I stayed in the parking lot for almost an hour, sitting in my car with the doors locked, watching the highway. A few cars passed, normal cars with normal headlights, but no truck. Eventually, I convinced myself to keep driving. Maybe I'd been hallucinating. Maybe I was more exhausted than I'd realized and my brain was playing tricks on me. The thing I'd seen under the truck that couldn't have been real. It was too dark. My phone's flashlight wasn't bright enough to see clearly. I must have seen something else and my tired brain filled in the details wrong. I got back on the highway and drove for another 2 hours. Nothing unusual happened. No trucks, no weird lights, no voices on the radio. I found a motel in a small town called Circle and checked in for the night. This is where I am now, writing this. But here's the thing that's making my skin crawl. After I checked in, after I got to my room and started to calm down, I decided to look through the photos on my phone. I take a lot of pictures for work, and I have a habit of snapping random shots during road trips. There was a photo I didn't remember taking. It was time-stamped from tonight, from when I was on that dark stretch of Highway 200. The photo showed the view from my driver's seat, the dashboard, the windshield, the dark highway ahead. And in the reflection in the windshield, barely visible, was a face. Not my face. Someone else's face, looking at me from the back seat of my car, the back seat that had been empty the entire trip. I checked the back seat of my car immediately. Nothing there, just my equipment bags and some clothes, but the photo is still on my phone. I've looked at it 50 times now, zooming in, trying to convince myself it's just a trick of the light or a smudge on the windshield. But it's not. It's a face, a pale, wrong-looking face with eyes that are too wide and a mouth that's slightly open. And the more I look at it, the more I realize the face looks familiar. Not like someone I know, but like something I've seen recently. It looks like the face I saw under the truck. I'm supposed to keep driving tomorrow. I need to get to Minneapolis for a job on Friday, but I don't know if I can get back in that car. I don't know what I brought with me from that highway, if anything. Maybe it's still in my car. Maybe it's in this room with me right now. I've been hearing sounds for the last half hour. Scratching sounds, coming from the bathroom. Wet, dragging sounds, like something pulling itself across tile. I've been too scared to check. The scratching just stopped. Everything's quiet now. I can hear breathing. It's not my breathing. It's coming from somewhere else in the room. Slow, wet breathing, like lungs that are full of something they shouldn't be. I need to leave. I need to get out of this room, but I'm scared to move. I'm scared that if I move, if I make any sound, whatever's in here with me will know exactly where I am. The bathroom door is opening. I can see it in the mirror on the dresser. It's opening slowly, and there's someone standing in the doorway, someone pale and twisted, with a face I recognize from my phone. They're smiling at me. I don't think I'm going to make it to Minneapolis. My mother died when I was 16. Heart attack. Sudden. No warning. One day she was fine, making breakfast and complaining about the weather, and the next day she was gone. It's been 12 years, and I've mostly made peace with it. I had therapy. I grieved. I moved on with my life. But what happened 3 weeks ago has destroyed everything I thought I understood about her death. I need to write this down while I still can, while I still remember which thoughts are mine. It started on a Tuesday night. I was at home in my apartment in Denver, watching TV and eating leftover Chinese food. It was around 10 p.m. when I heard it. A voice calling my name from outside. Rebecca. It was faint, coming from somewhere beyond my second-floor window. I muted the TV and listened. Rebecca, honey. My blood went cold. I recognized that voice. It was my mother's voice. I walked to the window and looked out. The parking lot below was empty except for a few cars. No people anywhere. The streetlights cast their usual orange glow over everything. Nothing unusual. Rebecca, I need you to come outside. The voice was clearer now, more distinct. It was definitely my mother's voice. The same tone, the same slight rasp she'd had from years of smoking, the same way she'd always said my name with a little upward inflection at the end. But my mother was dead. I'd been at her funeral. I'd watched them lower her casket into the ground. I stood at the window, frozen, trying to rationalize what I was hearing. Maybe it was a neighbor with a similar voice. Maybe I was stress hallucinating. I'd been working long hours lately. Maybe I was more exhausted than I realized. Maybe someone was playing a cruel prank. Please, honey, I need your help. Come outside. The voice sounded sad now. Plaintive. Like my mother used to sound when she was worried about something. I felt tears starting in my eyes. I wanted so badly for it to be real, for my mother to actually be out there somehow. But I knew it was impossible. I didn't go outside. I closed the curtains, turned the TV volume up, and tried to ignore it. After about 10 minutes, the voice stopped. I told myself I'd imagined it. Grief does weird things to your brain, even years later. Sometimes you hear what you want to hear, but the next night, it happened again. "Rebecca, are you there? Please answer me." This time I was in the kitchen, and the voice was coming from outside the kitchen window. I didn't go to look. I just stood there, gripping the edge of the counter, trying to keep my breathing steady. "I know you can hear me, sweetheart. I need you to open the door. I need to come inside." Something about those words made my stomach drop. The way she said, "I need to come inside," there was something wrong about it. Something that didn't sound quite like my mother. Despite the voice being identical. "Why won't you talk to me? Did I do something wrong?" The voice was starting to sound petulant, almost angry. My mother had never used that tone with me. I grabbed my phone and called my dad. He lived about 20 minutes away. When he answered, I could tell I'd woken him up. "Rebecca, what's wrong? It's almost midnight." "Dad, I need to ask you something. Have you ever heard Mom's voice? Since she died?" There was a long pause. "What do you mean? Like, heard her voice calling you? Talking to you? From outside your house or something?" Another pause. Longer this time. "Rebecca, are you feeling okay? Have you been sleeping?" I could hear the concern in his voice, the careful tone people use when they're worried about your mental health. I didn't blame him. I knew how it sounded. "Never mind," I said. "I'm fine. Just had a weird dream. Sorry for waking you." After we hung up, the voice started again. "Was that your father? Don't tell him I'm here. He won't understand." He never understood. I went to my bedroom, put on headphones, and played music loud enough to drown out everything else. Eventually, I fell asleep. The third night, I came home from work to find my apartment door standing open. Not wide open, just slightly ajar, like someone had closed it but it hadn't quite latched. I lived alone. I was obsessive about locking my door. There was no way I'd left it open. I stood in the hallway, staring at that open door, my heart pounding. I should have called the police right then, but something made me pull out my phone and open the camera app instead. I started recording as I slowly pushed the door open wider. The apartment looked normal at first glance. Nothing obviously disturbed, no signs of forced entry. But as I stepped inside, I noticed things were slightly off. The couch cushions were arranged differently. A picture frame on the bookshelf was turned to face the wall. The thermostat was set to 85 degrees. I always kept it at 68. And there was a smell. Faint, but definitely there. Like perfume. Specifically, like the perfume my mother used to wear. White Diamonds by Elizabeth Taylor. I'd recognize that smell anywhere. "Rebecca, you're finally home." The voice was coming from my bedroom. Not from outside this time, from inside my apartment. Inside my bedroom. I should have run. I should have dropped my phone and gotten the hell out of there. But I didn't. I walked slowly toward my bedroom, my phone camera still recording. My hand shaking so badly the footage was probably unusable. The bedroom door was closed. I reached for the handle and opened it. The room was empty, but the window was open, curtains billowing in the breeze. I never opened that window. It stuck badly and took serious effort to get it open, and my bed the covers were pulled back and rumpled, like someone had been lying in it. On my pillow was a note, written in handwriting I recognized instantly. My mother's handwriting. "Why won't you talk to me? I'm your mother. Don't you love me anymore?" I grabbed the note and ran out of my apartment. I went straight to my dad's house and showed him everything, the note, the video I'd taken, everything. I told him about the voice, about all 3 nights. He looked at the note for a long time, his face going pale. "This is her handwriting," he said quietly. "I know, but that's impossible. I know." He wanted me to stay at his house that night. I agreed. I didn't want to go back to my apartment alone, but as we were sitting in his living room, trying to figure out what to do, we both heard it. "Rebecca, are you in there?" The voice was coming from outside my dad's house now, from the front yard. My dad's face went white. Is that "Don't go out there," I said quickly. "Please, Dad, don't open the door." But he was already standing up, walking toward the front door like he was in a trance. I grabbed his arm, trying to pull him back. "That's not Mom," I said. "I don't know what it is, but it's not her. Please. Rebecca, I just want to see my family. Why won't you let me in?" My dad's hand was on the doorknob. He was starting to turn it. "It's not Mom," I said again, more desperately. "Mom would never beg to be let in. She had a key. She would just come in. Whatever's out there isn't her." His hand stopped. He stood there, frozen, breathing hard. The voice outside continued, "Please. I'm so cold out here. I've been cold for so long. Just let me in and I can be warm again. We can be a family again." "Go away," my dad said, his voice barely above a whisper. "My wife is dead. Whoever you are, whatever you are, go away." The voice stopped. For a long moment, everything was silent. Then we heard footsteps on the front porch. Slow, deliberate footsteps, walking back and forth, pacing. We sat in the living room all night, listening to those footsteps. They never stopped, back and forth, like someone waiting impatiently. Around 3 a.m., we heard scratching at the door. Long, drawn-out scratches, like fingernails dragging down wood. When the sun came up, the footsteps stopped. The scratching stopped. Everything went quiet. My dad opened the door carefully, looking out onto the porch. There was nothing there. No footprints, no marks on the door, nothing. But there was another note, tucked into the door frame. "I'll wait. I'm patient. One of you will let me in eventually." That was 2 weeks ago. Since then, the voice has followed me everywhere. Work, grocery store, my car, coffee shops. Anywhere I go, within a few hours, I hear it. Always from just out of sight. Always my mother's voice, getting increasingly angry. "You were always such an ungrateful child. I died for you, and this is how you repay me. I'm going to make you sorry, Rebecca. I'm going to make you understand what it's like to be left outside in the cold. I've stopped going to my apartment. I'm staying in hotels, different one each night, never the same place twice. But it doesn't matter. The voice always finds me. 3 nights ago, I woke up in a hotel room to find my mother standing at the foot of my bed, or something that looked like my mother. Same face, same hair, same clothes she'd been buried in, but her skin was wrong, too pale, with a grayish tint, and her eyes were completely black. Not just the pupils, the entire eye, black like bottomless holes. She smiled at me. Her teeth were too long. "You should have let me in when I asked nicely," she said. I screamed. I screamed so loud the people in the next room called the front desk. By the time hotel security got to my room, she was gone. They thought I'd had a nightmare. Maybe I did. But when I checked my phone the next morning, there was a text from my mother's old number, the number that had been disconnected for 12 years. "I'm inside now. I don't know what that means." Inside where? Inside my head? Is that why I'm hearing the voice everywhere? Has whatever this thing is gotten inside my mind? Or does it mean something worse? Yesterday, I looked in the bathroom mirror, and for just a second, I saw her reflection instead of mine. Same black eyes, same 2 long teeth, smiling at me. I'm writing this from my car. I've been driving for 6 hours, no particular destination. Just driving, trying to stay awake. Because when I sleep, I dream about her. About my mother, or the thing pretending to be my mother, standing over my bed, reaching down toward me with hands that are too cold, too stiff. And in the dreams, I let her touch me. I let her put her frozen hands on my face, and I can feel something passing from her into me. Something dark and hungry and patient. I think it's trying to become me, or make me become it. I can't tell anymore. My dad stopped answering my calls 2 days ago. I drove by his house this morning and his car was there, but he wouldn't answer the door. I looked through the window and saw him sitting in his living room, just staring at nothing. And standing behind him, with her hands on his shoulders, was my mother. She looked at me through the window and smiled. Then she mouthed something. "You're next. I'm so tired." I haven't slept properly in days. I keep jerking awake every time I start to drift off, terrified of what I'll see when I close my eyes. But I don't know how much longer I can keep this up. The voice is talking to me right now. It's been talking for the last hour, non-stop, even though I'm alone in my car on an empty highway. It's not coming from outside anymore. It's coming from inside my head. Just give in, honey. It'll be easier if you don't fight. I'm your mother. I would never hurt you, but it's not my mother. My mother is dead. My mother is buried in Riverside Cemetery, and she's been there for 12 years. Whatever this thing is, it wants me to believe it's her. It wants me to let it in completely. And the terrifying thing is, part of me wants to. Part of me misses my mother so much that I'm willing to accept this thing, this monster, just to hear her voice again. I'm losing this fight. I can feel it winning, feel it burrowing deeper into my thoughts. Sometimes I catch myself talking back to it, having conversations, almost like it's normal. Yesterday I caught myself calling it Mom. I don't know how to stop this. I don't know how to make it go away. I've tried ignoring it, confronting it, running from it. Nothing works. It's always there, always talking, always waiting for me to give in. The voice is getting louder now. It's not just my mother's voice anymore. It's other voices too. Voices I don't recognize, all talking over each other, all saying the same thing. Let us in, let us in, let us in. I think whatever took my mother's voice has done this before. I think there are others, lots of others, all of them waiting outside, in the cold and the dark, calling to their loved ones, begging to be let in. And once you let them in, you become one of them. I'm pulling over. I'm so tired. Just for a minute. Just need to close my eyes for a minute. She's standing outside my car. My mother. She's tapping on the window, her black eyes staring at me, her mouth moving. I can hear her perfectly even though the windows are closed. Open the door, Rebecca. Let me in. I'm so cold. My hand is moving toward the door lock. I'm trying to stop it, but I can't. It's moving on its own. That's it, sweetheart. Just unlock the door. We can be together again. The lock is clicking open. She's smiling now, opening the car door, reaching for me with those frozen hands. Welcome home, honey. My girlfriend Laura and I moved into our apartment in Chicago 6 months ago. It was perfect. 2 bedrooms, hardwood floors, big windows, affordable rent. The only weird thing was the neighbors in the unit directly above us. But at first, we thought they were just quiet people who kept to themselves. We were so fucking wrong. I'm writing this because I need someone to know what's happening. If something happens to us, if we disappear, or worse, someone needs to understand why. Someone needs to know about apartment 3B. The first time we saw them was move-in day. Laura and I were hauling boxes up the stairs when we passed them in the hallway. A couple, maybe in their 40s, both pale and thin, wearing clothes that looked slightly outdated. The woman had long black hair and wore a floral dress that looked like it was from the 82nds. The man wore slacks and a button-up shirt, also weirdly formal for a Saturday afternoon. "Hello," the woman said, her voice flat and emotionless. "You're the new neighbors." It wasn't a question, just a statement. "Yeah, just moving in downstairs," I said, trying to be friendly. "I'm David. This is Laura." They both stared at us for a long moment without responding. Then, in perfect unison, they both smiled. The same smile, the exact same angle, showing the exact same amount of teeth. "Welcome," they said together, their voices overlapping perfectly. Then they walked away, moving down the hallway with synchronized steps, their footfalls landing at exactly the same time. "That was weird," Laura whispered, after they'd gone around the corner. "Super weird." I agreed. "But whatever. We don't have to be friends with them." The first few weeks were fine. We'd hear footsteps from the apartment above us occasionally. The normal sounds of people living their lives. Sometimes furniture moving. Sometimes what sounded like walking back and forth. Normal apartment noises. But then we started noticing the pattern. It was Laura who pointed it out first. We were lying in bed one night around 11 p.m. when we heard the footsteps start above us. Back and forth, crossing the apartment in a straight line. Laura checked her phone. "They do this every night," she said. exactly at 11 p.m. I've been paying attention. I listened to the footsteps. They were perfectly rhythmic. Step, 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 pause. Turn around. Step, 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 pause. Turn around. Over and over, like someone pacing, except too regular, too mechanical. Maybe they're night owls, I said. Maybe they can't sleep or something. The footsteps continued for exactly 1 hour. At midnight, they stopped. Complete silence from upstairs. We started paying more attention after that. And once you notice a pattern, you can't stop seeing it. Every night at 11 p.m., the footsteps would start. Every night, they'd continue for exactly 1 hour. Every night, they'd stop at midnight. Not a minute before, not a minute after. Perfect timing. Every single time. But it got weirder. We started noticing other patterns. They left their apartment every morning at exactly 7:15 a.m. We'd hear their door open, hear them walk down the hallway, hear them go down the stairs. Laura started watching from our window, which looked out onto the street. Every morning, she'd see them emerge from the building entrance, walking side by side, perfectly synchronized, and head down the street. They always came back at exactly 6:30 p.m. Same routine in reverse. Door opening, footsteps in the hallway, door closing. Every single day, 7 days a week. No variation, ever. Do they have jobs? Laura asked one evening. Where do they go every day at the exact same time? I don't know. Maybe they're really into routine? But it was more than just routine. It was mechanical, inhuman. One Saturday, Laura decided to test something. She went upstairs and knocked on their door at 3 p.m., a time when they should have been home, based on their schedule. No answer. She knocked again. Nothing, but we could hear sounds coming from inside the apartment. Footsteps, movement. We knew they were in there. Laura tried one more time, knocking loudly. Hello? It's Laura from downstairs. I just wanted to introduce myself properly. The sounds inside stopped. Complete silence. Then we heard footsteps approaching the door. Slow, deliberate footsteps. The door opened just a crack. The woman's face appeared in the gap, one eye visible, staring at Laura. Yes? Her voice was completely flat. Hi. I'm sorry to bother you. I just wanted to say hello and... We are not receiving visitors at this time, the woman said. Her tone hadn't changed at all. No emotion whatsoever. Please do not knock on our door again. The door closed. Laura stood there for a moment, then came back downstairs looking disturbed. That was fucking creepy, she said. She didn't blink. The whole time she was looking at me, she didn't blink once. That night, the footsteps above us were more aggressive. Louder, faster, more forceful. Still in the same pattern. Still for exactly 1 hour. But it felt angry somehow, like whatever was up there was upset that we'd knocked on their door. Things escalated after that. We started finding things in our apartment that we hadn't put there. Small things at first. A fork in the bathroom, a shoe in the kitchen, Laura's hairbrush on the coffee table, even though she was certain she'd left it in the bedroom. Are you moving my stuff? She asked me one morning. No. Are you moving mine? We were both getting forgetful, we decided. The stress of the new apartment, new jobs, adjusting to the city. It made sense, but then we found the photographs. I was looking for a book on our bookshelf when I found a photo album I'd never seen before. It was old, the kind with the sticky pages and plastic film. I opened it, curious about where it had come from. The first page had a photo of our apartment, our living room, specifically. Same furniture, same layout, but the photo looked old, like it was taken years ago. The next page had another photo of our living room, slightly different angle, and another, page after page of photos of our apartment, all old, all taken from different angles, and then I got to a page that made my blood run cold. It was a photo of a couple, young, maybe in their 20s, sitting on our couch. The woman had blonde hair and was wearing a sundress. The man had dark hair and glasses. They were both smiling at the camera. Normal, happy couple photo, except their smiles were wrong, too wide, showing too many teeth. And their eyes, even in the old photograph, you could tell something was wrong with their eyes. They looked empty. I flipped to the next page. Another couple, different people, also sitting on our couch. Same wrong smiles, same empty eyes. Next page. Another couple, next page. Another couple. There were dozens of them. Different couples, different time periods, based on the clothes and photo quality, but all photographed in our apartment, and all with those same disturbing smiles. The last page had a photo that was more recent. Better quality, clearly digital, but printed out. It showed a couple in our apartment. It was us, Laura and me, sitting on our couch, both smiling those wrong smiles with empty eyes. I didn't remember anyone taking that photo. I didn't remember sitting like that, smiling like that. But there we were, looking exactly like all the other couples in the album. I showed Laura. She went pale. "Where did this come from?" she whispered. "I don't know. It was just on the bookshelf. David, we need to leave. We need to get out of this apartment. And go where? We signed a year lease. We can't afford to break it." That night, the footsteps above us started at 11 p.m., like clockwork. But this time, we heard something else. Voices. Muffled, but definitely voices, speaking in perfect unison. We pressed our ears against the ceiling, trying to hear what they were saying. It took us a few minutes to make it out, but once we did, we wished we hadn't. They were saying our names, over and over, in perfect synchronization, emotionless and mechanical. David and Laura, David and Laura, David and Laura. We called the police. We told them about the weird neighbors, the photo album, the voices. They sent a patrol car over, and 2 officers went upstairs to check on apartment 3B. They knocked on the door. No answer. They knocked again, announced themselves as police. Still no answer, but we could hear sounds from inside. Footsteps. Movement. The officers heard it too. "Chicago PD. Open the door, please." Nothing. They told us they couldn't force entry without cause. No crime had been committed. Having weird neighbors and a photo album wasn't illegal. They suggested we talk to our landlord if we were concerned. After they left, Laura and I sat in our living room, trying to figure out what to do. That's when we heard our door handle jiggling. Someone was trying to open our door from the outside. I jumped up and looked through the peephole. The hallway was empty, but the door handle was still moving, turning back and forth, like invisible hands were trying to force it open. "Who's there?" I shouted. The handle stopped moving. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then we heard breathing from the other side of the door. Heavy, wet breathing, and then the voices, muffled but clear enough. "David and Laura. David and Laura. Let us in. David and Laura." It was the neighbors. Both of them, speaking in unison, their voices flat and emotionless. We didn't sleep that night. We sat on the couch, both of us watching the door, jumping at every sound. The neighbors went quiet around 2 a.m., but we didn't trust it. In the morning, we went to talk to the landlord. Mr. Kowalski had owned the building for 30 years and lived in a unit on the first floor. He was a nice older guy, usually pretty responsive to any issues. When we told him about the neighbors in 3B, his expression changed. He looked uncomfortable. "You've met them?" he asked. "Yeah. They're really weird, Mr. Kowalski. We need to know who they are." "How long have they lived here?" He was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "Come with me. I need to show you something." He led us to his apartment and pulled out a filing cabinet. He rifled through it for a moment, then pulled out a folder labeled Unit 3B. Inside were lease agreements, lots of them. He spread them out on his table. "Every couple that's lived in your apartment," he said, pointing at our unit number on the leases, "has eventually broken their lease and left, usually within 6 months, and every time, a new couple moves into 3B shortly after." He pulled out photos attached to the lease agreements, driver's licenses, photocopies of IDs, different couples, different time periods. "Here's the thing," Mr. Kowalski said, his voice low. "These people in 3B, they're always the same people, same faces, same names on the lease. Alan and Margaret Foster, every time. But they can't be the same people, because the oldest lease I have from them is from 1987. They'd be in their 80s by now, but they look exactly the same as they did then." He showed us a lease from 1987. Attached was a photocopy of 2 driver's licenses. The faces in those photocopies were identical to the neighbors we'd seen. I've tried to investigate, Mr. Kowalski continued. The driver's license numbers are fake. The social security numbers don't exist. Their references don't check out. But every time a couple moves into your unit, they show up. They sign a lease, pay rent in cash, and they never cause any problems except what? Except the couples in your unit always leave. Always. Sometimes they leave in the middle of the night, leaving all their stuff behind. Sometimes they just disappear. And 3 times, over the years, tenants have been found dead in your unit, all ruled as suicides or accidents. But he didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. Why haven't you kicked them out? Laura asked. Why do you keep renting to them? I've tried. I've served them eviction notices. I've tried to physically remove them, but they always come back. And whenever I try to get authorities involved, all the documentation disappears. Leases vanish from my files. Photos disappear. It's like reality rewrites itself to keep them there. Laura and I left his apartment in a daze. We went back to our unit and started packing. Fuck the lease, fuck the deposit. We needed to get out. That's when we realized we couldn't leave. The front door wouldn't open. Not locked, it would turn. The latch would release, but the door itself wouldn't budge, like it was sealed shut. We tried the windows. Same thing. They'd open, but there was something blocking them, some invisible barrier that we couldn't see but couldn't push through. We were trapped. The footsteps started above us, but it wasn't 11 p.m. yet. It was only 3 inches the afternoon, and they weren't the usual pacing pattern. These were heavy footsteps, coming toward the door of the upstairs apartment. We heard the door to 3B open, heard footsteps in the hallway, coming down the stairs, coming to our floor, coming to our door. Laura and I backed away from the door, holding on to each other. The footsteps stopped right outside. We could see shadows blocking the light under the door. 2 sets of feet, standing perfectly still. Then the voices. David and Laura. It's time. Let us in. Go away, I shouted. Leave us alone. You've been chosen, David and Laura. You're perfect, just like the others. Let us in so we can make you perfect too. The door handle started to turn, but we hadn't unlocked it. It shouldn't have been able to turn. The door opened. Alan and Margaret Foster stood in our doorway, both smiling those 2 wide smiles. But their faces were different now. Their skin was gray and loose, like it was barely attached to the skull underneath. Their eyes were completely black. No whites, no pupils, just solid black orbs. Welcome home, they said in unison. They stepped into our apartment. Laura screamed and grabbed a knife from the kitchen. I grabbed a baseball bat from the closet. We were both backing away, toward the bedroom. Stay back, Laura shouted. Don't come any closer. But they kept walking toward us, their movements perfectly synchronized, their faces emotionless despite the smiles. You can't fight it, they said. The others fought too. It doesn't matter. This is your home now. This will always be your home. And soon, you'll be just like us. Alan reached out toward me with one gray hand. His fingers were too long, the joints bending in ways they shouldn't. I swung the bat at him, but it passed right through his arm like he was made of smoke. The bat hit the wall behind him with a solid thunk. Laura stabbed with the knife. It went right through Margaret's chest with no resistance. Margaret looked down at the knife, then back up at Laura, still smiling. You can't hurt us. We're not really here. We haven't been here for a very long time. They kept advancing. We were backed into the bedroom now, nowhere left to go. They stood in the doorway, blocking our exit, both of them staring at us with those black eyes. One day, they said, new neighbors will move in downstairs, and you'll go to welcome them. You'll smile at them, and then you'll wait. You'll wait for them to understand. Wait for them to try to leave. Wait for them to realize they can't. And then you'll make them perfect, just like the others made you perfect. What are you? I asked, my voice shaking. We're what remains, they said. We're what's left when the building takes you, when it makes you part of itself. This place is hungry, David and Laura. It's always hungry. It needs to feed. And you're going to feed it. They moved closer. I felt something cold wrap around my ankle. I looked down and saw the floor had become soft, almost liquid. My foot was sinking into it. Laura was sinking too, both of us being pulled down into the floor itself. "Don't fight it," the Fosters said. "Fighting only makes it hurt more. Just accept it. Become part of the building. Become perfect, like us." We tried to pull our feet free, but the floor had become like quicksand. We were up to our knees now, sinking faster. The cold was spreading through my body, numbing everything it touched. I looked at Laura. She looked at me. We were both crying. "I love you," she said. "I love you too." The Fosters watched as we sank deeper, waist deep now, then chest deep. The cold was in my lungs, my heart, my brain. Everything was going numb and dark. The last thing I remember seeing was the Fosters' faces, still smiling, as the floor closed over my head. I woke up standing in the hallway outside apartment 3B. Laura was standing next to me. We were both wearing different clothes, me in slacks and a button-up shirt, Laura in a floral dress, the same clothes the Fosters had been wearing. "What happened?" Laura asked. Her voice sounded flat, emotionless. "I don't remember," I said. My voice sounded the same way. "We walked to our apartment." "No, not our apartment anymore. The apartment that used to be ours." The door was open. We walked inside. There was a couple there. Young, early 20s, moving boxes in. They looked up when we entered. "Oh, hello," the guy said, smiling nervously. "You must be the neighbors." Laura and I looked at each other. Then, in perfect unison, we both smiled. The same smile, the same angle, showing the same amount of teeth. "Welcome," we said together. We left the apartment and went upstairs to 3B. Our apartment now. The place we would live forever, trapped in routine, waiting for the building to feed again. Every night at 11 p.m., we pace, back and forth, for exactly 1 hour. We can't stop. We don't know why we do it. We just do. Every morning at 7:15, we leave. We don't know where we go or what we do. We just walk, and then at 6:30 p.m. we're back, and the whole cycle starts again. Sometimes I can still think. Sometimes, for brief moments, I remember being David. I remember Laura being Laura, before she became this thing wearing Laura's face. But those moments are getting rarer. Soon, I think, David will be completely gone, and there will just be this thing that looks like him, walking in patterns, waiting for new neighbors to move in below. The building is always hungry, and there are always more couples looking for affordable apartments in Chicago. I'm a home inspector. It's my job to go into houses and look for problems, structural issues, water damage, electrical hazards, that kind of thing. I've been doing this for 8 years, and I've seen some weird stuff. Dead animals in crawl spaces, evidence of squatters, bizarre DIY repairs that violated every code imaginable. But nothing, absolutely nothing, prepared me for what I found in the basement of 1847 Ashwood Drive. I'm writing this from a hospital. My hands are shaking so badly I can barely type on my phone, and the nurses keep asking me if I'm okay. I'm not okay. I'm never going to be okay again, but I need to document this before I lose my nerve or before someone convinces me it didn't happen. The house was a foreclosure, bank-owned, been sitting empty for about 6 months after the previous owners just disappeared, not moved away, disappeared. The police investigated, but there were no signs of foul play, no bodies, no evidence of anything. The family was just gone one day. Parents, 2 kids, even the dog. Everything they owned was still in the house. I got the call from the real estate agent, Helen, asking me to do the inspection, standard procedure before they could list it. She warned me the place was creepy, still had all the family's belongings in it, frozen in time like they just stepped out for groceries, but I've done dozens of these. Empty houses are always unsettling. I arrived at 10 a.m. on a Tuesday. It was one of those old Victorian houses, probably built in the 1922. 3 stories with a full basement, paint peeling, lawn overgrown, windows dark. The kind of house kids probably dared each other to approach on Halloween. Helen met me outside with the keys. "I'll be honest with you, Marcus. she said. "This place gives me the creeps. I've shown it twice, and both times I felt like someone was watching me. I'm not going in there again. Here's the keys. Just lock up when you're done." I didn't think much of it. Agents get spooked easily. I grabbed my equipment bag, unlocked the front door, and went inside. The smell hit me first. Not decay or mold like you'd expect in an abandoned house. It smelled like, I don't even know how to describe it, like copper and salt and something else, something organic that made my stomach turn. The air was thick with it. The inside of the house was exactly as Helen described. Furniture still in place, dishes in the sink, mail on the table, a child's backpack hanging by the door. Photos on the walls showing a normal-looking family: mom, dad, a boy about 10, a girl about 7, all smiling, all gone. I started my inspection on the first floor, checking outlets, testing faucets, looking for water damage or pest issues. Everything seemed relatively normal, just neglected. But I kept getting this feeling, this prickling on the back of my neck like I wasn't alone. I'd turn around expecting to see someone behind me, but there was never anyone there. When I got to the basement door, that feeling intensified. The door was in the kitchen, painted white, with a simple brass knob. Nothing unusual about it, but standing in front of it, I felt this overwhelming dread. Every instinct in my body was screaming at me not to open that door. I'm a professional. I had a job to do. I opened it. The smell was worse down there. That copper salt organic smell, so strong it made me gag. The stairs leading down were wooden, old, creaking under my weight. I turned on my flashlight. The basement light switch didn't work and started descending. The basement was unfinished. Concrete floor, stone walls, exposed beams on the ceiling. Typical old house basement. But it was big, running under the entire footprint of the house, and my flashlight couldn't reach the far corners. I could see shapes in the darkness: boxes, old furniture, the usual basement clutter. I was about halfway across the basement, checking the foundation walls for cracks, when I heard it, a sound coming from the far corner where the darkness was thickest. A wet, dragging sound, like something being pulled across concrete. I froze, aiming my flashlight toward the sound. "Hello? Is someone down here?" The sound stopped. Silence. Then I heard breathing. Heavy, labored breathing, like someone who'd been running hard. It was coming from the same corner. "This is private property," I called out, my voice less steady than I wanted. "You need to leave. I'm calling the police." I reached for my phone, but before I could pull it out, I heard movement. Fast movement. Something rushing across the basement toward me. I ran. I didn't think, didn't try to see what it was, just ran for the stairs. I could hear it behind me, getting closer. That wet dragging sound mixed with rapid footfalls. I hit the stairs and took them 3 at a time, bursting through the door into the kitchen. I slammed the door behind me and held it shut, my heart hammering. Something hit the door from the other side. Hard. The whole door shook in its frame. Then again, and again. Each impact was accompanied by a sound that wasn't quite human. A hissing, gurgling sound. The impact stopped. I waited, pressed against the door, barely breathing. Minutes passed. Nothing. I should have left right then. I should have walked out of that house and never come back. But I was angry. Angry at being scared. Angry at whoever or whatever was in that basement trying to frighten me. So I did something stupid. I opened the door. The basement stairs were empty. I shined my flashlight down. Nothing moving, no sounds. But on the top step was something that hadn't been there before. A photograph. I picked it up with trembling hands. It was one of the family photos from the walls, but it had been altered somehow. The faces had been scratched out. All 4 faces, scribbled over with something dark, and written on the back in shaky handwriting. "We're still here." That's when I heard the children, laughter. 2 children laughing, coming from somewhere upstairs. Not playful laughter, the kind of laughter that had an edge to it, almost hysterical. "Hello?" I called up the stairs. "Kids, are you okay?" The laughter stopped abruptly. Then I heard small footsteps running across the floor above me, back and forth, like kids playing tag. I went upstairs. I don't know why. Every rational part of my brain was screaming at me to leave, but something pulled me forward. I needed to know. The second floor had 4 bedrooms and a bathroom. The footsteps were coming from one of the bedrooms at the end of the hall. The door was closed. I approached it slowly, each step feeling heavier than the last. The footsteps inside the room stopped right as I reached the door. Total silence. I turned the knob and pushed it open. It was a child's bedroom, the boys' room, based on the decorations. Baseball posters, model cars on shelves, a telescope by the window, and sitting on the bed, facing away from me, was a child. "Hey," I said softly. "Are you okay? Where are your parents?" The child didn't move, didn't respond, just sat there, perfectly still. I walked around the bed to see their face. That's when I realized it wasn't a child. It was one of the mannequins, like from a department store, child-sized, dressed in kids' clothes. But someone had drawn a face on it with marker. A crude, disturbing face with 2 wide eyes and a smile that stretched from ear to ear. I backed away from it, my skin crawling. That's when I heard breathing behind me. I spun around. There was another mannequin in the doorway. This one, adult-sized, wearing men's clothes. It hadn't been there when I entered the room. I was sure of it. And then it moved. I'm not talking about falling over or being pushed. It moved deliberately, raising one stiff arm to point at me. The marker-drawn face stared at me with those impossible eyes. And then the mouth, which had just been drawn on, opened. Actually opened. The plastic somehow becoming flexible, and it spoke in a voice like grinding metal. "You shouldn't have come here," I screamed. I shoved past the mannequin and ran for the stairs. Behind me, I could hear more of them, multiple sets of footsteps, all moving stiffly but quickly. I hit the stairs and nearly fell, catching myself on the railing. The front door was right there, 20 feet away. I could have made it. I should have made it. But something grabbed my ankle from between the stair railings. I looked down and saw a hand pale, too thin, with fingers that were too long holding on to me. I tried to shake it loose, but its grip was like iron. More hands reached through the railings, grabbing at my legs, my clothes. They were pulling me down, pulling me through the railings, toward whatever was underneath the stairs. I grabbed onto the railing with both hands, fighting against the pull, screaming for help even though I knew no one would hear me. That's when I saw them. Faces, pressing up against the underside of the stairs. Wrong faces. Human faces, but stretched and distorted, with mouths that opened too wide and eyes that were all black. The family, the missing family. They were under the stairs, and they were trying to pull me down to join them. I kicked hard, feeling my shoe connect with something soft. The grip on my ankle loosened just enough. I yanked my leg free, leaving my shoe behind, and scrambled the rest of the way down the stairs. I could hear them behind me, could hear the wood of the stairs splintering as they tried to force their way through. I hit the front door, fumbled with the lock, and burst outside into the daylight. I didn't stop running until I reached my van parked on the street. I got in, locked the doors, and just sat there shaking, watching the house. For a moment, nothing happened. The house just sat there, looking empty and innocent in the morning light. Then I saw movement in one of the upstairs windows. Faces. Multiple faces, all pressed against the glass, all staring at me. The family, the mannequins, other things I couldn't quite make out, all watching me. I started the van and drove away. I didn't call Helen. I didn't call the police. I just drove, trying to process what had happened, trying to convince myself it was real. But when I got home, I found something in my equipment bag that proved it wasn't a hallucination. My shoe, the one I'd left behind in that house. It was in my bag, which I hadn't opened since arriving at the house. And inside the shoe was a note, written in the same shaky handwriting as the photograph. "Thank you for visiting. Come back soon. We get so lonely." I burned the shoe and the note. I told Helen I couldn't complete the inspection, made up some excuse about structural instability making it too dangerous. She said she understood and that she was going to recommend the bank just demolish the property anyway. But 2 weeks later, she called me. The house had been sold. A young couple bought it as is, planning to renovate it. They moved in last weekend. I tried to warn them. I drove over there, knocked on the door, tried to tell them they needed to leave. But the woman who answered looked at me like I was insane. She said the house was perfect, that they hadn't had any problems at all. Everything was wonderful. Behind her, I could see into the house. And standing at the top of the stairs, watching me with those two wide marker-drawn eyes, was one of the mannequins. But the woman didn't seem to see it. She just smiled at me and closed the door. I'm in the hospital because I tried to go back last night. I broke a window and climbed into that house, determined to get those people out. But they didn't want to leave. They were in the living room, the couple and what looked like the previous family, all sitting together, all with the same blank expressions. And the things from the basement were there too, crawling on the walls and ceiling. They told me I was trespassing. They told me to leave. But the things on the ceiling had other ideas. I don't remember much after that. Just pain and darkness and the sound of dragging. The police found me this morning in the front yard, unconscious. I'm covered in scratches and bruises, and there's something wrong with my right arm. The doctors say it looks like someone tried to twist it off. They're talking about psychological evaluation, asking if I've been under stress lately. But I know what happened. That house is alive, or something in it is alive, and it collects people. It takes them and makes them part of whatever nightmare exists in that basement. The family didn't disappear, they're still there. And now there's a new couple there too. The worst part? I looked up the property records today. The house has been sold 17 times in the last 30 years. 17 different families. All of them just disappeared, leaving everything behind. And I keep having this dream. I'm back in that basement, in the darkness, and I can hear all of them down there. All 17 families, all the people that house has taken over the decades. They're moving in the dark, crawling over each other, waiting, and they're calling my name. Last night, I woke up standing in my bedroom, fully dressed, with my car keys in my hand. I don't remember getting up. I don't remember getting dressed. But I was standing there, facing my bedroom door, ready to leave, and I know where I was about to go. It's calling me back. That house, whatever's in it, wants me to return. And I'm terrified because part of me, some dark part that's been growing since I left that place, wants to go down into that basement and join whatever's waiting there in the dark. I've checked into a hotel across town, trying to put distance between myself and Ashwood Drive, but it doesn't matter. Distance doesn't matter, because I saw it when I looked in the bathroom mirror an hour ago. There was something behind me in the reflection. One of those pale hands with two long fingers, reaching out from inside the mirror, reaching for my shoulder. And when I spun around, there was nothing there. But I felt it. I felt those cold fingers brush against my neck. They followed me. Or maybe I brought something back with me. Maybe I've been marked, and now I'm like those families, those 17 families. Maybe I'm already part of the house, and I just don't know it yet. I'm writing this as a warning. If you're in real estate, if you're a home inspector, if you're anyone who might end up at 1847 Ashwood Drive, don't go inside. Burn it down if you have to. But don't go inside, because once you go in, you become part of it. You're always part of it. Even if you leave, even if you run as far as you can, you're still connected, still owned. I can feel it now, that pull, that need to go back. My hands are moving on their own, typing an address into my phone's GPS. 1847 Ashwood Drive. I'm trying to stop them, but I can't. It's like someone else is controlling my body. The door to my hotel room is opening. I didn't open it. It's just opening, and standing in the doorway, smiling that too wide smile, is a mannequin with my face drawn on it. It's reaching out its hand to me, and I'm reaching back.